For our final session of Black August, we're inviting folks to create Black futures. This session is being held by two of my favorite artists, Amir Khadar, who is an illustrator, a designer, a fiber artist, just an incredible, well-rounded, all-encompassing artist who is behind the looks and images in the book, Parenting for Liberation, A Guide for Raising Black Children. All of the collages in that book were created by Amir, and also the cover. So if you love that look, then you love the art of Amir Khadar. And Amir is being partnered with Lorena Estrella, who is also an incredible artist, a printmaker, an incredible youth organizer. And if you see any of our social media, our website, anything that you see on those platforms, Lorena is the visionary behind that. So these two artists come together for this video and offer practices for you to vision and create Black liberated futures. Through your own art making. And so I hope you enjoy this practice. I hope you have fun with it, be creative, and share your visions of liberation with us on social media.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Amir Khadar. I'm a visual artist. I use they, them pronouns. And I also do fiber art and digital art. Those are like the things that are essential to my practice. A lot of the things I do are inspired by just Black femme strength, beauty, imagination, and spirituality. I like to put things from the past and things from the present together and just have a lot of fun.
Hi, my name is Lorena. I use she, her pronouns, and I identify as Afro-Dominicana and an artist, educator, and designer. And so I think a lot about memory, nostalgia, like the places that we belong or how we find meaning in our identities. And so my art really starts with printmaking. That was like my first love, making multiples, carving wood. And so I've moved into digital things, but I like to play around. So I think I'm just like crafty, artsy, and I've always really struggled with like identifying as an artist. I always felt excluded out of that, but always feeling really connected to wanting to tell stories and explore who I am, who my people are. And so for me, like art making is about that excavation, like looking, finding. I love like old papers, books, just always looking for those images and representations to see myself and to find my people more broadly. I also am an educator. That's a big part of what I do is like I love young people. I love working with young people. I love teaching. And always like bringing some creativity and like using our hands and thinking outside the box. So that's something that I bring to this conversation today. And then my connection to Parenting for Liberation is that if you see any of our social media, that's me behind the scenes. And I've been really inspired by Amir's work that you introduced in the book. So Parenting for Liberation, A Guide to Raising Black Children. Shout outs to Trina for bringing this to life. And also Amir, your work in this art and like helping us imagine this liberated future for Black children is really has inspired me, and I feel like I'm continuing in that work that you started us in.
And I forgot to say my connection to Parenting for Liberation. I just said pass it over. But I'll just say a little bit. Yeah. Well, basically, oh my god, the little product placement. Basically, one of the first things I did with Parenting for Liberation was I helped Trina develop the visual language for a curriculum. And then that was about 1 year ago. And then right after that, we started working on the images for the book. And I designed the cover and then 3 images inside of it that just depicted Trina with her family or her community, just in a liberated position. It's all collage, all Afro-Futurist collage, like what we will be talking about in this workshop.
Yes, which is so dope. So I'm trying to find some more images. And so this visual language, it's so dope, so colorful. When I talked to Trina about the branding, we want to make sure that it's joyous, that it feels powerful, vibrant, that there's lots of textures. And so you really kind of, gave us the tools and the elements to implement that vision and bring it to life. And so, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about our art practice and what grounds us in thinking about Afrofuturist visions, Afrofuturist art. And so, Amir, do you want to tell us more about your connection to Afrofuturism, the history, just like ground us in what Afrofuturism means to you?
Yeah. So I think I would start by saying that I think about Afrofuturism as a very large umbrella term that just encases everything that has to do with Black imagination, Black radical imagination, and just reimagining what Black futures, past and present, could be. Because I think Afrofuturism just lays the ground for us all to imagine things that we're not normally allowed to, and that's in a way what makes it such a liberatory practice. And for me, the reason I was drawn to it was because a lot of the spaces that I was around, specifically as an artist, didn't really encourage Black people to be as creative as we wanted to be. There would be like a lot of questions like, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? And there just wasn't, we weren't allotted the same freedom that everyone around us was. And then I saw Afrofuturism as a way to do anything I wanted to. Specifically, like I could take an image of a Senegalese woman from 1930 and then put a UFO on her head and then put her on the moon while she's braiding grass or something. And that's the type of image that could never exist in the past, present, or future that we're given as Black people. So Afrofuturism was just the space that I was allowed, and many other people have been allowed, to just think however we wanted to.
Yeah, what comes up for me, and even hearing that, is like this limitlessness, like just openness to that. And so like what a beautiful invitation to like imagine and to practice what living in that sort of past, present, and future all at once like really means. And even hearing some of those images already like brings up so many beautiful visuals.
Yeah, it's very powerful like that. And I think, again, Afrofuturism kind of exists as an umbrella term because it's a very, very broad word. Like, I would think about things like Marcus Garvey's Back to Africa movement as an Afrofuturist example of, like, speeches and activism. And then Missy Elliott is also a major Afrofuturist. Like, if you look at her old videos, they look like they're still new videos. Like, she was living in
We're not even ready for her videos still. Like, we're still, like, trying to catch up to what she was trying to do.
We're still not there yet. And that's just, like, the power of when Black imagination is expressed. Like, we have, I don't know, we have so much things that are repressed inside of us, and when we let it come out through art or just any form of imagination, beautiful things happen.
Been thinking about like looking back to some of the art that I was making as a young person, and I was like, I have this one collage I'm trying to find, and I'm like, this is hella Afrofuturist. Like, I used tissue paper and I like layered all of these things, and my hair was like this big fro, and it was like a full body portrait, and I didn't have like body parts. I was just like this shape, and so I'm like, and it was like half drawn, half collage. And so I'm just thinking about like, oh, what was I imagining for myself as like a senior in high school? So I'm just digging back into the things to learn about my present. Like, what was I thinking about back then that informs who I am today, but also maybe things that I've left behind. And so I think a lot about this practice of remembering and reclaiming, and Afrofuturism inspires that in me to think about like legacy, and what are we creating for the people who come after us, the people who have come before us. So that like going back, going forward, just playing with time in this like non-linear way.
Yeah, and just creating the things that we want to see. Because I feel like, again, the image that we want to see are very, very specific. Like for me, I really enjoy seeing Black femmes in positions of power, or just more spiritual depictions of our resistance and resilience. And those images don't exist unless we make them, and then Afrofuturism gives us the space. And like you said, we get to pass it on. So now instead of thinking, I would like to see this, we can show it to others, and then we're creating the world that we want to see more actively.
So who are some of the artists, the Afrofuturists, that you look to inspire your work?
Well, I think the two big ones that I was looking at were Wangechi Mutu and Mickalene Thomas, because they are also collage artists. And I personally really like how they utilize collage as a way to really blur that past, present, future line. And they use different elements from different time periods, different places, that are all Black, to create stories that have not necessarily been depicted before. Also, Mickalene Thomas does a lot of work about queer Black women, and Wangechi Mutu does a lot of work about African women. So they're putting their work in spaces and putting words and emotions to things that previously were kind of overlooked. And I think that's very beautiful.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about collage. What is the role of collage in imagining Afrofuturist art and visions?
So, again, I would think about collage in its essence is just combining any medias together. So you could collage text on top of images that you found in a magazine. You could take text outside of something, and then you have a text collage where you put multiple texts together. You could do something that's purely image based, like only magazines or like children's books or family photos. Again, collage is just bringing many different mediums together, and I think that there is no boundaries to collage. Like, you can take things from any place that exists as long as you have something physical or something digital if you want to do a digital collage. That's what I do because the boundaries are just less solid. But the reason that it coincides a lot with the Afro-Futurist vision is because, again, back to the idea of past, present, future, you can grab media from anywhere that you want to. Like example that I was saying was you could take a Senegalese woman from 1920, or you could take someone from 2020, and then you can put them in clothing that was from ancient Africa that's documented in a museum. And you put those two elements together, and you can think about what does it mean now that they're in the same space, or what types of backgrounds could you put them on to even enhance the image of what it means that they're in the same space. And it just allows us to create images and meanings that really haven't been explored before through collage. Collage is the best. I love collage.
No, I love that. So how do you start collaging? Like, what's your process? How do you get inspired?
I think for me, I like to start with the base image, or actually, it starts with the concept. Every art practice just always starts with a visioning period that I always in my head skip because I forget how long it takes. But what's it called? So I would start thinking like I might read a story, I might write a poem, or I might listen to someone else's poem and think about what images come up. Specifically, I like empowering text. I also love music too. For me, Janelle Monáe and Solange's music have been really helpful in my visioning process, and Erica Badu too. You know, I have a long list, but they just make me think about like a hopeful future where people are more empowered, more free to be themselves, and just have more sources of pleasure and happiness. So I like to put myself in that headspace, and then I find an image of someone who I think embodies that, and then I think about what they would look like, or what I imagine people would look like if nobody told them that they couldn't wear certain things, or that a certain like hairstyle would stop them from getting a job, or just all the stigmas that have been placed against Black people have just suddenly been lifted, and we can do whatever we want to. And that's like my favorite mind space. And then the work is just done after that. The in-between points just get skipped over.
Yeah, no, that's so beautiful. And I was like commenting today about my frizzies,
Yeah.
but all like the ways that we navigate oppression, right, in our like U.S. white supremacist culture and capitalism and all of those things. So I really love what you're invoking and introducing music. I think a lot of folks think, oh, you're an artist, like you must be good at drawing, but there's so many ways to be in practice around art making. And being inspired about what's around you. So I take a lot of pictures on my phone. I love Instagram. I'm like a new Pinterest boarder, so I'm like making mood boards. Trina knows this about me. But part of my inspiration is like I like quotes. I like reading a lot, so like there'll be like a word or a quote that sticks with me, and then I'll like add to that. I'm like, okay, well then what's the color about this? What's the feeling? And again, piecing from all different places. And so this is a place where like borrowing, bringing things in, taking those things back, right? Things that are in museums that were taken from us, and introducing that into the art practice is really important. But yeah, just being inspired. Sometimes I'll have a conversation. I'm like, yo, I'm still thinking about that. Like, and it takes time. Like, you gotta simmer on it a little bit. I simmer, you know, I'm like simmering on this thought, and then it'll somehow, like, this weekend I just had like a burst of like, let me make something. And so even if it's not good, just that practice of like making something, making an idea tangible, is really empowering for grounding, for just clearing your mind. Like that's what I find is really powerful for me. So part of this video series is to introduce our community and our families into thinking about resistance during Black August. And so this is a time where we ground and root in all of the resistance movements to think about imagining this new world, art making and Afro-Futurist collaging, to again envision and manifest these visions that we have for ourselves that are rooted in liberation, that are rooted in the resistance and resilience of our ancestors, and to lift up the struggle for Black liberation that's been going on in this country, around the globe forever, for Black folks to be seen and to be in their power. And so we're introducing this practice around collage making. That's hopefully something you can engage with your young ones, your elders. So really thinking intergenerationally about, you know, how to really stitch all of this vision together that's inclusive and that centers all the different parts of our families in a really broad and expansive way. And so, yeah, collaging. You're gonna need some things. And the best thing about collage is that it's accessible. It's using the things that are around you, near you. You need your scissors, your glue, a piece of paper, any magazines, objects that you have if you want to get sort of to the fabrics and textures of things. If you have any family photos, this would be a great time to also maybe make some copies and cut those up, right? And play with time and space and placements and thinking about what would this look like in a completely different landscape. So we recommend your markers, pens, crayons, any paints that you have around, pretty much old newspapers, whatever you have around, bring it together and start getting to work. And well, first you need that idea, right? We talked about this idea.
Back to that.
Back to this concept, this original idea. So we do have some grounding quotes that we wanted to share to inspire these Afro-Futurist collages that we're inviting you into practice with us. And so the first quote that we have that we are offering is by Yeye Luisa Tish, and it says, "We are the ancestors of the future, and what we do now will have an impact." And so Yeye is a teacher, dancer, storyteller, high priestess who has contributed so much to, you know, living out an Afro-Futurist present. And so we center their work, and we want to think about, as we're stepping into collage making and deciding what this quote brings up for us is, what is an ancestor? Who is your ancestor? Who are your ancestors, and where are you descended from? And really starting from that place of looking to the people that we come from, the people that we belong to really start thinking about the future that we want to step into as ancestors ourselves, right? So constantly being in that space of, I am a descendant of an ancestor and I will be an ancestor for others. And so I think that's just like a really beautiful way to think about the power and the timelessness of this idea around Afrofuturism, thinking about ourselves and the people who are going to come after us as well. And what are we doing right now to prepare ourselves to be those ancestors, to be those honorable ancestors, right? So that folks can look back to us and find strength in what we're doing right now. So that's kind of like a life philosophy motto to kind of be thinking about, what is the impact of my actions, right? And what does it mean for the people who are going to come after me? And am I in right relationship to the earth, to those around me, so that I can, really think about what that means for the future of the person and the legacy of my being, right? Without a body or just in a different realm or time and space.
The other quote that we have is, "Imagination is the only unlimited resource we have," from Dr. Alondra Nelson. And the question that came from that is, what are you imagining right now for the near future? And then how about the distant future? And what would you do with unlimited resources in your community? So this also illustrates another potential usage of Afrofuturism as a way to imagine way more liberated futures that would not be possible without radical imagination. Because right now, obviously, we don't have unlimited resources. We can't just go ahead and buy whatever we want to and then create the exact world we want. But we can spend our time imagining that world in preparation for when those resources come, because they always will come and the world is always going to be changing. We just have to constantly be thinking about, what do we want in terms of what do we want for community, what do we want for families, for individuals, how do we want to be perceived. All of that we can control inside of our imagination, and we can use Afrofuturism as the tool to examine those things.
So our last quote comes from Janelle Monáe and the Wonderland Arts Society. And so this quote says, "Abandon your expectations about art, race, gender, culture, and gravity." And also, again, this idea of like just openness, expanding, thinking beyond the oppressions that we exist in and that we are navigating around. Like, what does it mean to release those expectations, to step into imagination and pleasure and exploration with curiosity and abundance? And that really connects to all of these principles around Afrofuturism and stepping into that world that we know these things are not actually confines about who we are, and that we can play, we can have fun. Yeah, I think that's what that brings up for me. Those are some of the prompts that we have for you all to get creating, to get inspired. We've also created a playlist with Afrofuturist songs and music to also get you going and inspired. We've also included different ways to get activated around these principles and thinking about the sounds and imagery of Afrofuturism. And so we invite you into this practice to ground in your power, your imagination for Black August, and let us know how it goes.
For this workshop, we have included some suggested music that puts us in the Afrofuturist mindset, just to play as you're making, to set the mood and to really have an immersive experience. I like the album Fifi Awoto by Jojo Abbott. They're Ghanaian artists. The Satisfaction has an album called All Natural, which is very Afrofuturist. It was one of the first times that I was exposed to Afrofuturist music. I love it. Everything Erykah Badu and Missy Elliott have done is Afrofuturist, and most of what Janelle Monáe has done as well. So those things will all be linked in some way in a playlist for you to listen to, just to enjoy the mood. So now you can all get to collaging. We hope you'll have a good time and enjoy this as a free moment just to let your thoughts flow freely and create whatever you want to.